Hey folks, this is Ben Yessel. How's it going? So this is my second video I'm making today. Sorry, what here? Um, Number two for today. And yeah, this was what I wanted to mention at least earlier today. It's just more about a short dream I had. Well, short. Well, let me phrase that. A not too lengthy dream, but the train of thought I had about this might go a little bit longer. So bear with me here. This is all about music and that sort of thing. I've mentioned, maybe, of course, I'm sure I know I've mentioned a few other dreams about music performances and composing music and that sort of thing in the past. So, but this one might kind of get you going a different train of thought, perhaps, than some of the other ones that I've mentioned. So I know I mentioned something about uh, marching band dreams in the past, or uh, some kind of wind ensemble performances, or one that was a more of a composition oriented thing, and not being able to play the piano afterward. Um, one of the common emotional kind of strains between a lot of these dreams with music for me is that it involves it's often a bittersweet kind of thing. There's things that I want to do or play or perform or compose or feel, um, in various performances, and something falls short of what I'm expecting or wanting, it's frustrating. And there's a social dimension to all these things that is more or less great, often lacking again, and then there's other things too. This is an emotional subject for me. It's something I care a great deal about. And you might think it's again just as a classical kind of thing. And if you guys have been watching my videos for a while, you'll know that I definitely listen to also a lot of easy listening music from Europe, or library music, or whatever you call it, lo-fi or whatever, as well as a little bit of soft rock, and still a fair amount of film music, but increasingly the soundtracks for a lot of movies, again, super recently, are kind of very much lacking. So I don't know, that's a different deal, but a lot of 80s, 90s, 2000s film music, as well as a lot of classical music. And then there's other things that I listen to as well, but it's definitely not of the rougher element. And I'm not a rougher guy. I'm very much the very opposite of that kind of guy, person. And in other words, I don't go to bars and try to mess with women that way. I that's not me. So, yeah, I'm not a Hell's Angels guy, and I'm not a gangbanger, nothing like that. All right, goes without saying. So let's get into this dream here a little bit. So I guess I was probably part of this dream, a part of an early dream I had to do with BYU and music faculty there a little bit. My old horn professor there, and that was a somewhat different kind of dream. The one that I had though that was more recent, the latest one this last morning involved, um, to my recollection, again, this is a little bit weird. I was working on some music to be performed, I suppose, at a college campus, performing arts center or something along those lines. But I wasn't necessarily in college. It was probably just a composer's concert of some sort. I don't know. But the nature of what I was writing, or the nature of what everybody's performing, was definitely more within the 1900s and our century now. It was contemporary. It was modern. A lot of weird music. A lot of um, essentially harmonies that don't line up very well, or melodic lines that don't rhythmically line up very well. We call it asymmetrical rhythms, changing time signatures or mixed meter, um, more dissonant harmony, often, or weirder harmony, or just stuff in that's involving tritones and fourths and minor seconds and not even some music not really even being very melodic in nature, just being yeah fragments of little melodic lines maybe. Um, just depends on the piece. That kind of music. You know, with some of it bordering on sure late romantic types of styles and things, more triadic stuff, extended harmonies, some of it. So I was writing, I was having a piece performed, and the weird thing is it was something where I was it's a little like one of those homework assignment things, or a little bit like you're in college or school and you have had this project to do for a while, but you put it off, or you for some reason didn't do it, and then comes time to have this done, and like, oh my gosh, panic mode. It was a little bit like that in this case. It was kind of like um, I was um, wondering what I had finished or what I had ready to go. I was wondering which, if I had talked to performers beforehand, who was going to be playing my stuff. I was wondering if I was going to be conducting it. I just wasn't, there's so many things I wasn't really fully aware of. Or, no, I mean, so many things I wasn't really sure how they're going to work out. Was I playing the piano? And then everybody, another conductor was connecting it, and this music that I had some music, but it wasn't a lot. And can I write the rest of it right before I was performing? And it was, I just woke up before I could really find out what the whole shebang was. But I remember it involved piano. My music involved a piano, a bass clarinet, and like some other instrument. Maybe but it was weird. It was avant-garde in style. It used thirds, but not necessarily triads. You know, um, so maybe augmented to diminished harmonies, not so much minor, major. Avoided perfect fifths and things. Avoided major thirds a lot of times, somewhat. But it was, um, yeah, it was basically, it sounded like kind of like a train wreck. I know that's one of the things that's often, the descriptions often attributed to avant-garde music. Oh, it sounds like the Twilight Zone, or it sounds like, a train wreck, or it sounds like, um, sounds ugly, it sounds weird, that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what it sounded like, something like that. And my thought I had when I woke up was, this is my main train of thought, I suppose you could say. Performances are stressful. Whether or not you're performing something that somebody else wrote, depending on how prepared you are, whether or not it's something that you wrote or you're performing, again, an original composition with the composer, it's in the audience, or whatever it is, these things are not necessarily, they're not, we might look very relaxed and, oh, it's no problem, but it's not the same as just even if you've done it a lot, it's not quite the same as just, oh, I'm going to have some focaccia bread with some lemonade and a pickle for lunch and a side salad. And that'll be, oh, and oh, I'm talking to my good friend here. And oh, it's just so nice. Music performances are, yeah, they don't, if you've been through them enough and you are at advanced enough level of playing and you're prepared, it's not like you're going to be shaking, but there's a lot of things that can really go south. And you have to be, if something like that ever does happen in real life, something more panic inducing, you have to be really composed about it. And no, I can tell you about this in other videos. I have performed many, 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 many times being a music major, professionally and in an amateur case, or just most of my performances, most of the time it's been unpaid, but I've been paid either way, and I can tell you about. Oh man, whoa. I still remember this. Young woman hadn't really given too many performances of her own before. Some like taking lessons from a voice teacher in Shoreline, I think, and she wanted me to play piano for her. Nice young woman. Everybody has different personalities, and lo and behold, what happens? And it's a Christmas thing. She mixes up the pages right before we go on stage or something. And it's some piece that just goes. It's fast. And here I am scrambling to figure out which page is which right when they're doing this thing in front of her mom and dad and stuff. I'm like, what the heck? What the heck? I can't remember too many details about this performance. I just remember everything else went well, whatever I was involved with, but that one didn't go so well. And the reason why it didn't go so well was because she mixed up the pages. It didn't have anything to do with how well I was able to play the piece or not. I could play it. It went pretty quick, but I could play it. No problem. But yeah, it was... And she admitted what she messed up afterwards. And I can guarantee you guys that it took probably more self-discipline and composure on her part than I realized, because this is a young woman who is more sensitive kind of person. So it probably took a great deal of composure for her to not lose it. But she was nervous and whatever. So that happened. And so, I realized that on some level, these things can happen in a performance. It depends on the performance. And, only thing is that in dreams, all of your feelings and anxieties and everything you ever experienced is much more vivid. It's much more irrational. It doesn't make sense. There's so many things that you do in your waking hours in this regard, in music. If you guys are involved with music, or something even similar, like any kind of performing art, like theater or dance, or also sports and things, in a way, yeah. There's so many things that you do that help you deal with stage fright, that help you deal with last minute, like, oh my gosh, whoa, what do I do? And then like, oh yeah, I can do this, we can do this, I can do this, and you figure things out. You're able to figure things out. I had one of my piano students in the past who forgot their music. So the mom either bought a new book at a music store. I can't remember what she did. I don't think she went all the way home back again just to get the book they needed. I think she just bought an extra one. Oh, she was asking if she could borrow someone else's book or whatever, whoever had the same book. But her daughter, I think, ended up playing, I believe, her piece, and everything went okay. And I made sure that you know she's able to see all the notes. And I, these things happen, man. But like, I don't know if you guys know, and just how stressful they can be. Um, this all being said, I mean, okay. I've mentioned a few videos at least, but at the very least one about avant-garde music specifically. So my thing is that to go through all this stress and all this rigmarole and all this stuff regarding performing music that is very abstract, to say the least, a lot of times, and just really not very meaningful at all. To go through all this effort, to go through all this panic, to go through all this preparation, is it worth it? It just depends on the person, but like avant-garde music is really. You could ask the question, what's its worth? Because music with traditional melodies and harmonies and things is so much more engaging to the listener. It's meaningful. They can hum the tune afterward. It means more. It stays in our psyche more. It's more nourishment for the soul. Avant-garde music isn't really that kind of thing. It's Weirdland. And if you like Weirdland and all that, oh, and then just, train wrecky sounding stuff, if you really just find a lot of meaning and significance on some level, that stuff great, but a lot of folks don't care for it as much, including myself. Just it kind of depends on the nature of the music itself. And I'll try to get into it. I will do my best. I can't make any guarantees. Steve Reich, but more especially Philip Glass, bores me to tears. It really does. It's boring. And actually, in a way, rather listen to serialism, but serialism is, unless it's Alban is kind of pointless. It's often lacking. I mean, there's some music that's pointillistic, that's really dissonant, and Anton Webern's music is if there's no emotional contour or melodic contour, there's no real rhyme and reason for anything. I just can only handle so much of that before I'm just like, no. And I'm sure Anton Webern was a great guy. These Austrian guys, and anyway, you have all the other kinds of avant-garde music. I know, but it's, if I had the choice, would I write something like that and perform it for my own life and work? No. No. I know that much about myself. No, I wouldn't. Unless it had some dramatic value to it. Unless it was like the Twilight Zone music or something where I was trying to convey some emotion or emotions or something more meaningful in some capacity to me. No, I wouldn't want to go through all that effort to just, no. And so the question is, would I want to perform something like that? And when you're playing in an orchestra, you're kind of obligated to play what the conductor is deciding. Everybody play. And that being said, by the way, there's a good chance that something that we performed in Thalia Symphony will be performing again. And there's some discussion as to whether or not we want to do that one or a Copeland thing. And anyway, I was sick during the last rehearsal, so I don't know what's happening in that regard with the orchestra I'm playing in. I just know that I'm a little bit nonplussed to have to play a more avant-garde piece again. even though this piece actually is not especially unpleasant to play a lot. And the lady who wrote it was a very sweet lady, so that's nice. But yeah, I mean, I just it often does not bring me very much pleasure to work on these kinds of things very much. And conductors of new music, I'm sure many of them, or some of them, at least some conductors, probably are more like myself. Others probably have a bit more curiosity or capacity to, or more interest in gross sounding stuff. And they'll often, there was a professor at Central Washington who was one of my tougher professors in orchestra who, um, and he was just kidding. It wasn't a big thing. He knew I preferred tonal music. Um, and whatever, he said that the music that he was going to be performing, some more avant-garde stuff by Copeland and a few other folks, the piano recital he's giving was going to be too dissonant for my taste or whatever. He mentioned it in a more funny way. I've always taken these things very well. I've never disliked it when a faculty member is jovial that way. It's true. I mean, he was right. But the thing about all this is composition. If so, there's one thing these avant-garde composition lessons, a few of them I've taken, a few classes I've taken, have taught me, is that there's an infinite variety to music. There's never any end to the number of melodies that can be composed, and there's never any end to the emotions that can be conveyed. Now, we just are, always working with different rhythms and harmonic, different harmonies in progression, different kinds of harmonic progressions and stuff. And so, for different effects in things, and so I guess it's kind of like I keep my ear. I keep listening for with new music for anything that I like, or anything that I feel is more aesthetically, you know, substantial, in my opinion. And so I will. I'm not. I've never boycotted all modern music as it is. It's avant-garde or classical. I realize that there's some of it that I think will be good for me to listen to. It's just that there's a lot of, I guess when you had the idea, there's certain ideas I think that really separated avant-garde music from most other any other kinds of music that tends to be more meaningful. When you have music that lacks repetition and lacks a clear melody or rhythmic repetition of some sort, or clear harmonic structure, but more especially lacking anything, any kind of repetition or melody. The mind tries to seek out automatically anything that can make the music more familiar, or the brain tries to make sense of what it is that we're hearing, right? And so oftentimes this is kind of the hook, the avant-garde hook is, oh, there is no repetition. There is nothing that the brain can latch onto with some music. So it's so daring that way. Why should music have repetition? Why should it be this or that way? And I'd rather not have music be a philosophical discussion that way. Or it doesn't have to be that way. I'd rather have music just have an immediate appeal. And a very strong one. A very strong positive appeal or a very strong, emotionally moving kind of appeal or something along those lines. But anything but this questioning, this continual questioning what music is, and questioning why music can't be as valued if it doesn't make as much sense to the brain. I just I am a human being with two eyes, one nose, one mouth, two ears, and I shouldn't have to question that I exist that way. Why? Just you can keep asking why until you're blue in the face, and at some point it's just not worth it. Avant-garde music is kind of that way. It can be that way. But it's just that there's a lot of different kinds of avant-garde music. That a lot of it is more melodic and a lot of it's more harmonically interesting and on some level. And so, and I do try to not be completely, again, cut off from that whole world. I just, some element of college that way is still with me. I feel as though if I were to just ignore that whole area of music altogether, that it would not be such a good idea. But even if that's not really what I'm going to be doing so much with my life with composition, but I guess it's just I don't know. On some level, I guess you guys would have to be in my shoes. It was worse in regard to the way that colleges were in the early and mid 1900s in music composition programs. If you wrote anything, even remotely melodic, it was professors were brutal in their rebuke of your music. And boy, you guys, it goes without saying, you guys can tell I've never cared for this element in college at all. I often feel like I was kind of ripped off in a way with how hard I work in music. And a lot of musicians, I feel this way, are ripped off a little bit. And it doesn't make any sense to spend substantial amounts of money if you're going into the arts, if this is what's going to happen. And then you're expected to, it's like, it's more indoctrination than it is training. And I learned a lot of practical skills. I think it was worth it to go to college. But it's just, with performance and composition, it's continual fight to, it's just very uncertain regarding what's going to happen in one's life if this is the direction you go. And so it needs to change. I've never been okay with a lot of that elements of how music performance and composition are in general. And film itself is changing. So yeah, I just know that this is what I do best, and I want to still do this. This is what I worked so hard for in college, to be a musician in some capacity, composition especially. All right, I'm gonna wrap up this subject here in a bit. Just would like to not have as. Basically, to sum up this dream, I would like to. My subconscious is probably telling me on some level just to be prepared for everything I'm doing, and to not write music that's more complicated than it needs to be. That's the best way of putting it. All right, I'll catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.